online. So I usually download the PDF and then I'm reading it on the train or something.
All right, I believe we have a live stream on YouTube.
Train or something.
Yep, there we go.
Wow, this is that delay.
Yep.
Nice.
That's muted now though. Okay, we are online and welcome everyone to the Start again. Welcome everyone to the May 23rd Oversight Committee 2023. I'm Stefan Wunsch, I'm the co-chair along with Wig. Want to just say hi, Wig?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Wig Zamor, live in Somerville.
Thank you, Wig. And Len, want to just say hi also? We'll make sure your audio sounds good now that we're live.
Sure. I'm Larry Diggins. I'm here for all of Greg Leskowski's adoring fans as well. They apparently love people from Arlington too. Yeah.
Very good. And Craig, you want to introduce yourself just with a couple words?
Hi, Craig Leskowski, public member from Milton.
Excellent. Thank you, gentlemen. I have our agenda up on the screen and we are right at actually right on schedule. I don't see anyone with any comments in the YouTube stream, nor is anyone watching at this early stage. So I think we can give another 30 seconds and then we'll hit 5:15. Of course, the three of you gents are welcome to make any comments under the auspices of public comment. Feel free. If not, then once we hit 5:15, we will move on as scheduled to first the Capital Investment and Finance Subcommittee.
So I have a question that I haven't researched, but yeah. I'm wondering with all the kind of one-of-a-kind and unusual funding that's come from the federal government, if there are some new streams of funding that could be used for transit that we haven't been considering. And maybe there's someone who could, I mean, Len, you may be up on this or somebody else might. I'm not, but I know in the environmental health realm, there's $550 million of grants floating out there that are a one-time thing. So I'm just wondering if the same type of thing is happening with transportation due to the pandemic and other issues.
Those are good questions, and I know that we got some more money in the TIP. Actually, let me read the executive summary for the TIP and let you know that. I mean, of course, you can read it yourself. I mean, that can tell you whether there is any extra money that's been made available for programming, and yeah. I just downloaded the draft of the state of MassDOT's capital investment plan, so I'll see if they say anything there. I mean, I know that there is more money, and I'm just not sure where it is, and when and where it has to be spent. I know in the case of the T, a lot of the money that it got, was really just there to help keep it going, because revenue's down because ridership is down, and so they're plugging that hole. And then there were expenses like for example, and all the safety work they're doing now. I mean, state is putting in that money. That's not federal money, but yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think most of it's state money. I don't think any of it's federal money, so that kind of stuff. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I appreciate your tip. Your suggestion to look at the primary documents, and if there is someone at CTPS who knows whether there's kind of one-time funding, and especially if it's targeted. For example, a lot of the federal funds are targeted toward environmental justice populations. That's certainly the case with the EPA grants. It would be interesting to know that, and maybe to know if folks are working on that now. But it's not an emergency. It's not a today thing, and I appreciate your suggestion to look at the primary documents.
Sure.
I'm wondering. I just pulled up on the screen here. There was the draft for the fiscal year 2023, but we're already in fiscal year 2023, and this was from May 2022. Does that make this tip draft that I'm showing on the screen here completely obsolete, or are there things that actually carry over automatically from one tip to the next, or is there no hard and fast rule about that?
Well, that's the current tip, so the draft for the one that's under consideration is for fiscal years 24 to 27, to 28. So this is a current tip in which we're operating, and that one, would have programmed it would have had new programming for the fiscal year 27 year, or it would have new programming for fiscal year 27. And so this is the current tip under which we are operating, and just keep in mind too that the tip, everything coming from the MPO operates under the federal fiscal year, which ends on September 30th. We tend to get our tip out by the end of the state fiscal year because there is coordination with the state on it, so yeah, I mean, and just because there is coordination doesn't mean that we have to have the process wrapped up by the end of June, but we do, just because if we want to lock it down, since we do have such coordination with the state.
So,
yeah,
Stefan, even though the tip is a 5-year thing,
yes,
it gets redone every year. There's a new tip
yes.
every year that hops ahead a year. Some projects don't proceed as fast as they do. There's some surprises. Funding may change. So Len and the other folks on the committees redo the tip every year.
But we really do it to program that 5th year, and Wig is right, things move around a bit, but the tip gets amended a fair amount, within a federal fiscal year. So like we just put out amendment 6 and 7, some of which affect the discretionary projects section. That's not quite the right word for it, but there are projects that the MPO board selects, and then there are those that are selected by MassDOT and some other entities, and essentially when there are changes in them, they just report to us and we go, okay, fine. Even with some of our projects that we select, as Wiggins mentioned, they slip behind, they are behind schedule, meaning that we need to either figure out something to program sooner, or in some cases, they don't slip behind, but they go up in cost. And then we have to decide, what we're going to do in the next year. But the main exercise every year, and the one in which we spend most of our time, is to decide which projects we're going to put into that last fiscal year in the 5-year band.
Interesting.
Yeah. I have one more thing. It's the same way the T does the CIP, this capital investment plan.
Right. I guess I'm just getting hung up on which one is actually active. You were saying that because this is for federal fiscal year 2023, this would be the one that's in effect starting this September 1st, 2023?
No, that was started, September 1st, 2022.
Okay.
That's the beginning of the federal fiscal year 2023. Just like the start of the state.
Sorry. Yeah. Sorry. Yes. I meant yes. Sorry. But the fact that this says draft and I can't find anything else that's more current, and there's also this, which is the draft for federal fiscal years starting 2024. Okay.
What was the previous document you were looking at? What was
sorry, wrong tab. Wrong tab. But where did I? Here we go. Let me get them.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the draft. I don't know why you're looking at the draft. I mean, I don't know where you got it.
Oh, this is right off of CTPS, and this is what was off of current.
Okay.
It says under current federal fiscal year 2023 2027.
I don't know why he said draft something.
Yeah, but these things, the purpose of those twice a month meetings that Len goes to, or however frequent they are, is to just keep adjusting these as you go. So there are a lot of drafts out there.
Oh, you're right. That is entirely on me. I did pull up the wrong thing. I apologize. And it does say this is final. I'm sorry about that. Yeah,
how did you pull up the wrong one though? Where'd you go to get it? Or did you just?
Thank you, Google, for giving me a link to the draft, not to the. Yep, my mistake.
There are a lot of drafts in cyberspace of almost everything.
Yes, and in this case, the Googles gave me the draft of indeed what is actually in place, and that's it right here. This is the one that is federal fiscal year, and that's final. Okay, sorry, that's the right link. Now it all makes sense.
Sometimes Google will go to something that's been looked at most frequently. It depends on what their algorithm is.
I think you're right on that. Yes. Okay. So now I'm getting it. The TIP for fiscal year 2023 is finalized, starts September 1st. And indeed, what is the draft is the one that starts in a year, which is not that one. That's MassDOT. Okay. I got it. I was getting hung up. Sorry, Len, what?
No, go ahead.
I was getting hung up because I was seeing in the in this that how it's from 2022 when I had that previous document up, which was the draft, and it said May 2022, and the final one here says endorsed May 26, 2022. That's obviously before all the FTA reports on safety. And so I was thinking, well, wait a minute, is there nothing in here to do with, are there no MPO tip recommendations or projects related to MBTA safety? But I think that's actually, that would be something that would be answered in the draft for the year after, right? In other words, if there were to be anything coming out of the MPO for tip related to FTA safety mandates, that would be still in the draft form in this one, right?
Well, look, I mean, the MPO, I can tell you, isn't really going to fund anything for the MBTA safety issues. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, so I mean, it's just first off, yes, they could be capital programs, but the safety is more capital operations, and the MPO is really about funding a capital non-operations, so building new things, so you can improve an intersection, so it doesn't have to be that you created a completely new intersection. You can improve a new intersection, hence the transportation improvement program, but it's really to give you essentially a new intersection in the same spot, as opposed to simply dealing with safety issues. Now, a lot of times you will improve an intersection because it has safety issues, and you want to make it safer, either because it has a crash cluster, or you can make it safer for cyclists and pedestrians. But essentially, you end up with a new intersection as opposed to, well, we have this. I was trying to come up with a good example. I can't come up with a good example, but let's say you had a situation where, okay, all right. All right.
Yeah, that's interesting because I guess I knew enough to be dangerous in this case. The things jumped out at me, like prioritizing investments that preserve transportation system state of good repair. And I was thinking, well, good state of good repair is related to safety. This says safe transportation. But yeah, but I see your point, though. The tip is more about service delivery and not necessarily about maintaining or improving safety on what's already there. In other words, like a study to improve a bus corridor is up the alley of the tip, not
No,
how do we keep fires from happening.
The studies are done in a separate process.
Right. It is done by the appeal, but they're done through the Unified Planning Work Program, and but it's so like now. I mean, the MBTA is under federal mandate, for lack of a better word, to make this rails more safe. And it's doing that as quickly as possible. And well, first off, I mean, it would be hard to get that kind of funding done through the appeal, because the appeal pretty much programs being in this tip that 5th year. And so we would have to take money from the 5th year and say we're going to spend in the 1st year on safety issues for the MBTA, which I guess could be done, but it's something that we would normally consider doing.
Okay.
But the feds aren't giving us that money either. In fact, I don't think the feds even giving the MBTA that money. I think that money's all coming from the state. So then you would look for that, in the state's, CIP, which we just got the notice of draft. So it'd be interesting to see what the state CIP is saying about that.
Yep.
And the state might. Go ahead. One more thing. I think the state might even say that's not how we do our CIP. And the state might say, "Oh, that money's coming. It's coming from some other pot, investing pot." Go ahead.
I just wanted to mention for the benefit of Craig, right before you connected, Craig, I had pulled up, I think it was an email announcement from CTPS just yesterday that MassDOT has put out their draft for capital investment plan 2024 to 2028. But again, this is MassDOT, so we haven't looked at it yet. I was just notified about it in email yesterday. There may be some overlap between this CIP that's MassDOT and MBTA, but I haven't looked yet personally.
Well, they have to all of the regions add up to, at the end of the day, they're going to add up to what the state adds up to, right? So, I mean, the important thing, Len is much more up to speed on this now than I am, but the important thing about the MPO process is that it's federally designed. Every metropolitan region in the country follows that. And it has to do with surface transportation. And there are 3 certification documents and processes. One is the long-range plan, which is kind of the big vision, the big dollars. The other is the tip, which is kind of where the rubber meets the road. And then the last one is the UPWP, which is kind of studies about potential future things or problems, but that the UPWP is all studies. Those are the 3 certification processes for every MPO in the United States.
And just to be a little clear, I mean, so it's not like the LRT money, LRTP, the long range transportation planning money, is separate from the TIP money, the transportation improvement plan. Being essentially, the LRTP is an estimate of how much you're going to have to spend on the TIP. I mean, so each year, I mean, you get us like I think now we're in the 150 million range. I mean, and so if you were to sum up your estimate of all the money you're going to have to spend each year over the 20 years supposed to be covered by the LRTP, that would be the money that you would say we have to spend for this 20-year long-range transportation plan.
And one other thing, which may be obvious, the roads and paths and sidewalks and all that stuff, it is really fully handled by the MPO. The T is more a master of its own domain, even though it has to be folded in. And the mistakes at the T are more the result of the T itself, and not the MPO.
Yeah. So the MPO has a very limited transit fund, and we try to fund transit actually outside of the T. It has a transit modernization program, which can help the T, but it's a small amount of money each year. It's like maybe 2 or 5%, which amounts to $5 to $7 million. So it's very little. So we try to spread that around to smaller transit systems like Metro West, Regional Transportation, and K to the Cape Ann Transportation Authority. So that's the extent about transit modernization. But each year, around this time, the MPO may has some extra money because things have gotten shifted around, and we may have anywhere from 10 to 30 million that we need to spend. In which case we say MassDOT and MBTA, we got this money. Do you have any projects that are ready to go? And they'll come to us with projects that are ready to go. Then we'll pick whatever we can, and fund those. And we try to, we try to make the money go as far as it can. We get the most bang for it, either by helping as many people with the project as possible, or taking care of a project that really needs to be done sooner rather than later. But in the case this year, though, even then, those projects were not safety related. And now last year, I think we planned on spending some money on the Len commuter rail station. And so now that station's in bad shape, and has safety issues. But it went beyond simply safety reasons for wanting to redo that station. So it was a big capital project, and I'm holding back because I kind of remember maybe recently that we aren't funding it for some reason or something, that the appeal isn't funding it. I think the project's still going on, but it's not getting appeal funds. I'm getting a little confused because just so many things come in and out in terms of information on what we're dealing with. At any given point in time, my recall's not working very well. So, but I do remember that something's happened with the Lent thing. But my whole point is that that was a project that we had considered funding, MBTA related. Also, they brought Forest Hills to us, and that may be one that we put on the table and then took off the table. And once again, that was more capital funding. But with respect to these FTA findings or safety issues, none of that is coming from the MPO budget. None of it.
The one other thing about this process, if a big project that's in the MPO realm is underway and goes off track and all of a sudden starts needing more money, that can really hurt the little projects and the municipalities that promoted them and got them to be put in the plans and voted forward. And so that displacement can hurt those smaller projects and the smaller municipalities quite a bit if it's going the other way. So it's really best for everybody if things can be as close to plan as possible and proceed as close to plan as possible. And actually, this is kind of fitting into part of what I wanted to talk about in terms of new business. So it's not completely off track from the agenda. One of the issues that we face, though, is if we don't program a lot of the money and we leave it open, in the nearest year, so in the case of this upcoming fiscal year 24, and we don't have projects in the pipeline, that are ready to go in fiscal year 24, then we are forced into a situation where we have to go to MassDOT and MBTA and say, do you have any projects that are ready to go? So we try to avoid doing that as much as we can for two reasons.
One is that we don't get to evaluate those projects like we do projects in our own universe, as we call them. And so we have a lot of criteria that we use for assessing projects. We spend a lot of time developing this criteria. I think they're good criteria that based on the goals of the MBTA, of the CPO, of the MPO, which are, and I'll say, MassDOT has similar goals, but we don't know how they determine their criteria, and tried to find out more about that, but no success. And so we don't know how they're evaluating their projects. And also, we try to distribute our projects. Across the region, and so, but we'll have to take what the MBTA has that's ready to go, and mostly it's a function, as I was saying earlier, how much money those projects are costing and how we're assessing, the impact that they'll have in a very brief amount of time. Because like I said, we can do our own evaluation of them as we do for our own discrete projects. But if we program the money too tightly, though, then if a project goes up in cost, so let's say we're developing the 24-28 budget or plan, and we are now getting indications that a project that started in 23, fiscal 23, the cost has gone up 50%, which is not unheard of. Tends to be the average nowadays. And let's say it was a $20 million project is now costing $30 million, and let's say we were to find ourselves in a situation where we didn't have any money left over, then we would have to pull that money from fiscal year somewhere. I think we can go as far out as 5 years to get it. And if that's the case, then we wouldn't have to have any impact on fiscal year 25, but if we were not in a situation where there was money that we could grab further out, then we'd have to tell the municipality, that has something program for fiscal year 25 that's going to have to get pushed back. And usually the delay costs for two reasons. One is that inflation is factored in. And that's just 4%, which is a little low, but still, it adds up. But also, usually delays bring other costs because, well, first off, the delay, that 4% is low, but then, for municipalities, it's hard for them to just wait, and sometimes the waiting puts a project in jeopardy, especially if it had a little bit of a problem getting through town meeting. So there's that. I was something else I wanted to say is I'm forgetting it, so I'm kind of losing focus. But I should stop talking.
Yeah.
Talking for a while.
Is there a negative repercussion on the MPO itself if that happens, if there's a unexpected cost increase on a project already underway, or is that just part of the reason why there's a 5-year window to make sure that you can pull from year 5 if you have a problem like that? I mean, is that just the nature of how it's structured to allow for a little bit of fungibility? Or if that happens, is there like a serious blowback from the feds and somebody gets a hand slap in a big way?
Stefan, keep in mind the federal overseers are looking at all the MPOs in the country. So if one of them is off by 30% and the other one's off by 3%, they're going to figure that there's a problem in the one that's off by 30. It's better for the MPO to be as accurate as it can be, and for the towns to be as accurate as they can be. It's harder for the towns, but something like a pandemic and unanticipated inflation, I mean, that's gonna ripple across the whole country. So that will be a countrywide systemic issue. But if the feds will pick up if there's a problem in your region because it's poorly managed, the process is poorly managed.
Right. Yeah. I'm just wondering what is the actual tangible impact from the feds in a case like that? Is it mean reduced future funding, or is it administrative action that happens? I mean,
no, the worst that will happen is that they evaluate the appeal every 4 years. I forget what the term is, and then if they see, that the appeal is functioning in a suboptimal way, they will make a finding of it. And some are like, I'm forgetting the terms, but some are like, well, you should work on improving this. And the other, it's a certification process. And the other is that, well, we're not going to certify you until you either fix this or tell us, that you put in place a process that will guarantee us that this isn't going to happen again, so that we don't see this in the next certification process or the next certification review.
That makes sense.
It's like an outside corporate auditor.
Yeah.
If the outside corporate auditors find small stuff, they're used to it. But if they find systemic problems in a big company that are abnormal, it's going to be noticed and there's going to be action taken. It operates the same way.
But just so you know, though, so the feds, they have 2 ex officio seats on the board. So it's not like they are in the dark, for 4 years. So they can tell us things. In fact, one of them, Ken Miller, attends every meeting, and he often does tell us things. He's actually a former CTPS guy. But yeah, so I was kind of fading out a little bit. So with respect to that 5th year, look, we can grab money from the 5th year, but when we do so, then we don't fund something out that year. One of the things that we are trying to tell municipalities, once we put something on the tip, we're pretty much telling that municipality we're committing to this project. Which is good and bad in a way. It's good in that the municipality is like, okay, we can start, putting wheels in motion. We need to, get things through town meeting. We can tell people it's like, it's on the tip. We need to have, this bylaw, this zoning change, put into effect, or pass, so we can get this project done. We need to get our ducks in a row, and so it's a commitment to the community, but at the same time, while we have put into place now a rule that if a project goes up by 20% or maybe 25%, the municipality needs to come to us and explain to us why it's gone up in cost. Because the commitment has been that we're going to fund your project no matter what it costs. But as you can imagine, that creates what's the word for it? The term for it? I always blank out on this term. I'll come back to it. It creates a situation, a moral hazard. It creates a moral hazard. So if you know someone's going to backstop you, no matter how much your costs go up, then what incentive do you really have to keep your costs down? And so we don't really want to create that moral hazard. At the same time, we don't want the municipalities end up in a lurch through no fault of their own. And so if the costs go up because you have unexpected inflation like we have as a result of COVID, well, we'll fund it. If the cost goes up though, because normally before we'll even program a project, it has to be designed 25%. Now we picked that number because generally it's between the concept stage and the 25% design phase that the costs really go up. Between 25% and 100%, it still goes up, but not a whole lot, at least in the past. But now we're seeing projects that are really coming in quite a bit more because they can get designed fairly early. Like let's say they get designed 5 years before they're going to get built. We put it on the tip, and so let's say we put something on the tip in 2020. I'm hearing myself, that's why I get a little distracted. We put it on the tip in 2020, 2028, and I'm stopping. I want to give a more concrete example. So let's say we had the 2019-2020 tip. And, and something went in for fiscal year 23, and when it was designed with a different kind of standard in mind, and now we're much more focused on better facilities for cycling, and so maybe we wanted to have separated lanes, bike lanes. So it's kind of like when they start designing, they're designing into a future, a present that has higher standards than the future that we were looking at 4 years ago. And so it wouldn't be right to design to the standards that we had when we initially programmed the project. So it may seem like the project has increased its scope, but it hasn't. It's really, they're now designing, to a higher level, higher standard, which is costing more. And so that's why part of the reason that it's been explained to me why we're seeing some projects like go up 50%, because a big chunk of it's inflation, both labor and parts. But another part of it is just that the standards have changed, so that's it.
That's a very, very good discussion of it. Yeah, a description of it. That's excellent.
Yeah. So like I said, that's something that we are struggling with, in the MPO, so like I said, we can talk about this more later on with new business, because part of it has to do with how we maybe want to chime in on the long range transportation plan, if we do.
Absolutely.
So maybe let's talk about trying to work with people from the MBTA. I wanted to kind of pick up on what Greg had brought up, and some of the things we discussed in the last MCOP meeting, where maybe we could do some things to kind of reinvigorate the Oversight Committee.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'd like to see we can talk this about maybe trying to develop this kind of curriculum that would help us develop a pipeline of people who can either be ROC members, or participate on the MPO, maybe be part of the advisory council for the MPO. Just teach people more about transit, and transportation, but given our role, be more from the transit MBTA side, So want to tell us some of the people you talked to again?
Oh yeah, at the job fair event, which was on May 6th, in no particular order, I got caught up with Darren McAuliffe, who is the deputy chief of staff for MassDOT. And he introduced me, just as an aside, he introduced me to Gina Fiandaca, who's the Secretary of Transportation, and I was able to mention the role and history of the ROC to Secretary Fiandaca, which was, I think, the first she had heard of our organization. So that was very, very, very good. I think that we as an organization, through my meeting her, were able to make ourselves known. She seemed to understand right away our positioning as volunteers performing oversight. Again, in no particular order of other people that I met and with whom I talked during that event. The Chief Administrative Officer, David Panagore, who was very interested to hear that the Rider Oversight Committee has this role. He also didn't know of the committee, and
what's his role again?
He's the Chief Administrative Officer, so all of HR and compensation falls under him, as well as recruitment, as well as customer community outreach. So folks like I'm trying to think of folks in the past who have
Logan Nash.
Yes, I believe IT also under David, the CAO, yes, because that's all administration in the agency. I might be mistaken on that, but I believe that indeed the CIO of the state and the CIO of MassDOT are separate from technology in the agency, who I believe will also report to again David Panagor. But the takeaway was he was extremely glad to meet me, and there was I don't believe it was said explicitly, but he was looking forward to talking with us in the future. Also, I met and I had quite a long conversation with the director of HR, whose first name is Tom. I'm gonna have to cheat and look. Tom Way. Tom Way, Waye. I mischaracterized him. He is the Chief Human Resources Officer. So it's a 4-letter acronym, but Chief Human Resources Officer Tom Way. And he and I had a great conversation about the recruitment event series. And I asked him a couple of questions about, well, what does return on investment look like? What does success look like for these kinds of recruitment events? And he said that so far their conversion rate from the previous events, essentially turning someone who shows up at the recruitment event into an actual prospective employee who's actually engaging in active training to become an active either operator or mechanic or what have you. He said it's 30 or maybe even in the mid 30s percentage. I hope I'm not misquoting him, but that seems to be quite good. He seemed very pleased at that the conversion rate was in the 30 percentage range for this recruitment event. I think that says a lot about the scope of the messaging that the T has done for these recruitment events, and the certainly the in-person presence at these events. Like I said, I only attended the one at Wonderland on May 6th, but there must have been dozens of people from the MBTA of all stations being there to talk about what it's like to be a bus operator, what it's like to be mechanic, what it's like to be in various departments, to give prospective employees an idea before those prospective employees go through the hiring process. And then 2 more people of note. Nicole, I'm going to cheat again and look at, I believe her name is Nicole Singleton, is the Director of Compensation and HR Planning at the MBTA. And I had a conversation with her also about the recruitment, what success looks like for getting staffing levels up at the agency. And then again, in no particular order, I met the Senior Director of Digital Strategy and Engagement, Andrew Cassidy, and that role is the head of all media outreach, things like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, the electronic media presence of the MBTA is all under Andrew Cassidy.
What's his position again? What's his position again?
His title officially is Senior Director of Digital Strategy and Engagement, Andrew Cassidy. And I was very excited to meet him, and I said, I told him such, and I said we would very much like to have him at a future meeting, and he was agreeable to that. And then again, last but not least in any way, I met Danny Levy, who is a woman, Danny Levy, the Chief Customer Officer. She's the head of all customer experience and customer engagement And if I understand that right, she has customer service of all types under her, including the transit ambassadors and the red jackets in the stations, to the customer service helpline, the 322 number, which I can't remember the last digits of it. It's right here. 322-3200 is under customer experience, I believe, so under Danny Levy. And she also was glad to hear that our committee exists and was not against talking with us in the future. So all in all, everyone that I met at that recruitment event was very approachable, very eager to hear about this organization, our committee. And I think all of those folks that I just mentioned are candidates to have as future committee members here, perhaps starting at a subcommittee in a little more casual setting, but all potential strong contacts to go take our organization in different directions.
And you also met Angel, right? Was Angel's last name?
Yeah, yes. Angel Donahue Rodriguez, and he is Deputy Chief of Staff for the MBTA.
So McAuliffe is Deputy Chief of Staff for MassDOT?
I believe so, yes. I have his card, which lists Mass Bay Transportation Authority, MBTA, not MassDOT, but Angel is also Deputy Chief of Staff, so I'm making the assumption that Darren is MassDOT as well.
I'm not thinking no.
Okay.
I'd be surprised. I could be wrong. I think you can give Darren a call, see how he's doing. All right, well, looking at this, to me, the two people we want to reach out to first would be Andrew Cassidy and Danny Levy, with this idea about how can we kind of reach out more to riders, to get them interested in knowing more about the team. So that's the outreach part. The other part is who is it that we can reach out to or inside the team to help provide that information. And so we can provide some information, but I think it'd be better if we had people from inside the team provide information for two reasons. One is that they know the information better than we do, and it would be the official word. And the other is that it just gives us more people to interact with, so that we go more connections. And I think it'd be better to have them at subcommittee meetings. And I recommend they be part of the operations meeting, unless you just don't want to meet with them, in which case we'd happily have them at CIF meeting, but I think it just fits better into the operations bucket.
Absolutely. And that subcommittee, my subcommittee also has under it auspices of communications.
Yeah. So while there's still while the memory is still maybe fresh, maybe invite both of them into the next meeting, and see if one or both of them show
up. That. Yeah, right. I'll take that recommendation. Any concerns, Wig or Craig? Yeah, I think that if Angel had been able to join us today, we probably would have asked him his opinion on what you just opined, Len, as far as who's next to contact to have on our lists for guests. But I think I'm hoping in the future we will still be able to talk to Angel for some better understanding of exactly where all those folks fall. But I'm not going to let that be. That's not a reason to me to not reach out to Andrew Cassidy and Danny Levy immediately. So yeah. I like that idea.
Yeah, and part of the reason that I was hoping to talk with them first was that well, first I didn't have this list in front of me, so I just had your report, and I didn't really write it down. So it's like, okay, who did he want to? No, the other was that, well, maybe he could suggest the people that we had met, and that's still a possibility, right? But I don't know how easy and how quickly we'll be able to get to them, and I'd rather not wait,
Yeah.
And it's not that I'm impatient, it's more that, I mean, you have momentum, you just kind of get momentum while you have it, because it's really easy to lose it. Something unrelated can come up and just kind of kill the momentum. And so we want to like kind of create this connection with them and at least get them thinking about meeting with us sooner rather than later.
Right. And it's only been just a hair over 2 weeks since I met them all. I mean, it was May 5th to today. So, I mean, I guess that's coming up on, I'm math impaired. That's more than 2 weeks. And
it's okay. It's fine. It's less than a month. How's that?
That's true.
So yeah, all right. You see what we can get.
It's 2 weeks and 3 days. Yeah, it's just a hair over 2 weeks. I was right.
Yeah. So yeah, the next MCOP meeting is on December 13th. So we get to maybe try to get to them tomorrow. And because people I think start phasing out. Thursday because of the holiday weekend.
Exactly.
So let's try to get to them before that. And so you try them tomorrow. And if we don't get a response, let's say by Wednesday next week, bang on them again. Say 2 weeks. So the next.
Absolutely. Yep. And I'm hoping. I mean, as we were discussing in the subcommittee 2 weeks ago, I'm hoping that they will see a bit of what's in it for them to be assisting us with broadening the horizons of the customer. Obviously it's going to be a selective, sort of a self-selecting audience of folks who, once we get to the point of putting out a message saying, sort of MBTA University or some such about, come join us for more deep discussions about how transportation in the MBTA area works. Once we get to that point, I'm sure that we'll have building blocks for, as you were saying at the beginning of this, not only finding more members for the Rock, but potentially members of RTAC, potentially members of other other transit organizations that might not be in mind for folks who are interested or wanting to participate in, who knows, T-Riders Union outside of our purview, but
if they wanted to
hear about T-Riders Union and say, oh my gosh, that's for me.
Yeah, what's the other group? I mean, there's another group, right? I mean, who are they now? I mean, the former Secretary of Transportation. It starts with an A.
T for Mass, and there's T for Mass is the one that
Josh Ostroff.
Yes, and
he's no longer there though.
And a fellow who ran for,
what is that group called? Sort of like it out in your name.
yeah,
because we're all over the news. Anyways, okay. Well, what I'm talking about. Yeah, if they want to join them, because a lot of people, especially younger folks, they really have the activist energy in them, and it's like they can learn from us and go and change the world. All right. Okay, well, we have a plan there.
Yep, and it's going to come to me in my sleep tonight. Jim Aloisi is on. Gonna kill me. It's killing me.
Yeah, eventually maybe you'll get to the point where it doesn't kill you. You just kind of let it go. It's like it comes to you, or it doesn't. As long as the person kind of knows what you're talking about, certainly can move on. But you haven't got to the point where you can let it go. So we'll let you focus on it until you find it. so that's that. So budget stuff. I don't know. Unless Craig's interested in getting filled in, I'm inclined to just kind of move on and tell you all a little bit more about something that happened. Well, two other things that happened in PO meeting. Did you find it?
No, I was gonna say I've got the budget. I thought it was worth at least spending 5 minutes to highlight for the record the details of the budget.
Sure. Well, what did you take away from the meeting that you'd like to tell the group
I
about?
believe it was how you were talking about the projections that were adjusted. I believe we were focusing primarily during the subcommittee. I believe we were talking about I can't remember what page it was.
I think it's 12. It's the reason 12 comes to mind.
Yes. Talking about the adjustments based on the new projections. Should have bookmarked it. It's not worth
Well,
groping around for it, but
well, it was really based on it seemed like the projected revenues from riders was high based on the projected number of riders, and so I was kind of curious about that. So
was this it? What I'm showing here? These are projections going out to June 2024. Was that the slide?
I don't remember it being the slide, but let me
Okay.
focus on it.
If that's not it, then it's not worth belaboring.
Len, did you think all the projections were high, or like across every line, or was there a particular, like subway versus bus, something was high?
Well, so subway so subway was low, and actually I guess the subway's lower than all the other. I mean, the heavy rail is lower than all the other modes. I mean, bus is like 70%, commuter rail is like 70%, and boat, I forget where it is, but I think it's like in the 60s and 70s. But heavy rail was low, and someone had pointed out, and maybe it was Stefan, that maybe the reason that
I'm gonna find that right now.
heavy rail was low was because the reporting of it for the previous fiscal year was low, was because of that shutdown during, what was it, August, where they completely shut down the
Right.
orange line.
Yeah.
And so maybe the deal is that they were expecting a bounce back to what it had been, because there was a dip in heavy rail, and one of the hypotheses was that we had
it's the lower one here on page 5. Yeah.
Right.
Budget assumption versus average, and how updated model. Yeah. And we were saying how, rail from 51% in the first 2 quarters. And I was saying how, you know what, that 51% in Q1 and Q2 was could be. I won't say was. I would say, this was the number right here. This 51% could have been significantly impacted by such things as the Orange Line shutdown for the entire month of, for a full month, August into the beginning of September of 2022.
Yeah, that makes sense. So
by the way, is my cursor visible? I mean, I'm sort of gesturing. Does that show up? Okay, good.
I see it. Yeah.
Good. Yeah, so I think this was the one that we discussed the most in the subcommittee, was this, because that's a big difference right there.
So I mean, and they're still not hiring as many people as they want, and as many people as they have budgeted, and so but fortunately they're budgeting with the intent to hire more. So if they are able to hire more people, it won't be that, we wanted to hire these people. We didn't put money aside for it. I mean, they are doing that. But as Brian Kay would forcefully tell you repeatedly, the budgetary shortfalls that we're going to see, I think, in fiscal year 26 and 27 in particular, are pretty large. So not really clear what's going to happen. So there we are.
Oh, and I remembered the organization that we a moment ago, we couldn't remember the name. Transit Matters.
There you go.
Yes, Transit Matters with Jim Aloisi, Ari Osveld, other folks.
Yeah. So maybe it can become a training ground for them.
And I've brought this up before, but YPT is got a lot of people in it.
Right.
I'm blanking. Sorry, YPT is what?
Young Professionals in Transportation.
Thank you.
It's a pretty big network.
Are they national?
Well, the one I interact with is Boston. I don't know if they're national or not.
Okay.
I also haven't checked whether MIT's Transportation Weekend is starting back up again. That's always a really interesting place to go.
Right. What time of year is it normally?
It's usually early summer.
All right.
It moves around. If it's in DC, it won't be in Boston. It moves.
What's it called? MIT Transportation Weekend?
Well, it's called the Transportation Expo, I think.
Transportation Expo.
It happens to be at MIT. It's usually at the Stata Center. Sometimes they need more buildings in the Stata Center to fit all the meetings.
Right.
There's no agenda until everybody shows up, and then sometimes there's hundreds and hundreds of people from Hawaii, California, all over the place.
So you say sometimes they're in DC and sometimes they're here?
Yeah, I don't think they would have one the same year in virtually the same time in two northeastern cities.
Right.
They're careful like that, but
but
a lot of people show up at those.
I found their calendar. It's looking like this is maybe what you're talking about.
I can't really read it.
Oh, sorry. YPT, that's CTAA Expo. YPT. Okay, well, they are clearly a nationwide organization. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 7.
Yep.
There's 7 different regions to the organization.
I've been pretty impressed with the meetings in Boston.
Okay.
And these are full-time young transit professionals. No, not unlike some of the the good staff that we talk to.
Sure.
Yeah, very similar.
Okay, that sounds like
some of them are the same.
Yeah.
So
I'll have to read more about this group, but it sounds like YPT is to support working in the industry, not necessarily just educating riders.
Well, it's networking. It's not like a job fair.
Right.
They'll have up to 3 or 4 interesting presentations in a single meeting, and they're all one-off presentations.
Right. So I know I've been talking a lot, but can I tell you one other thing that happened at the last appeal meeting?
Please, yes.
So Allie Clemens, who used to be part of CTPS, and in fact, she talked with us early on about the EPWP when we were just trying to get involved in it. And I remember coming to the CF meeting and being very patient and talking with us about it. And she moved over to Somerville, and so now she is back across the river, and with MBTA Capital, and she did a presentation about along with someone else. Actually, she didn't. Someone else did. From MBTA talked about how. I'm hearing myself again. It's just such a delayed echo. It really catches me, but I'll get used to it. So she was talking about. I really just distracted. I'm sorry. Let me just focus a little better. The shutdown of the Callahan Tunnel being for I guess a solid month, this summer, I mean, maybe in July, August, and how they're gearing up for that. They really are. They really are focused on it and getting the word out, and they're going to provide more bus service. Certainly going to try and make sure that the Blue Line is working as well as it can, and he's certainly going to try to get a lot of people who drive to mode shift to the Blue Line. And I said, well, wouldn't it be great if some of the people who mode shifted to the Blue Line did so permanently? And I said, I'll check with Allie to see if the T has any plans to see what can be done along those lines. It's too late to try to do a study based on what's going to happen this summer, a UPWP study, because we pretty much have the draft made. It take a last minute effort, to swap something in. And I think the timing is such too that we probably couldn't get something in for next year either, because these are all based on the federal fiscal year. And so the next federal fiscal year would begin after the shutdown plan for next year too. But the T can do stuff on its own. It can always come to CTPS. They can always come to NPO and say, well, we want to do the study, we're going to pay for it. We just need some, of the CTPS staff or CTPS to do the work for us. So she said she'd get back to me on it. But I think it really would be a good opportunity for the T to see what can be done to cause wheel shifting. I think one of the things that they're doing is for certain riders, maybe all riders of the Blue Line, but certainly, if not all riders, and certainly some riders from Blue Line, they're going to give them free passes for the subway. And so
Sorry,
it's nice.
Say it again. Riders of the Blue Line who are being displaced.
I think so. I'll need to go. I don't know if they have the deck that they presented on the website for the MPO. If not, I'll see if I can get it from Allie to refresh my memory, about exactly what kind of financial incentives, meaning like free access to the T, they are providing for people who are going to be affected by the Callahan shutdown. And I don't think they're making the whole Blue Line free. I don't think so. And it may be that they're making it such that people who live in East Boston, who would maybe walk to or drive to Blue Line station, will get free access to the T. But they're certainly giving incentive for people to use the Blue Line. And so I think it'd be good to see, what kind of impact that has, and I think there's a study in there, and certainly, one thing that could be interesting is that, let's say, you provide that free access while the Callahan Tunnel is shut down. What if you extended it, maybe like a month or so, and then see what that did to ridership? Because I think that would tell you whether it is the free access that is drawing people in, or whether they're just doing it because they can't use their cars effectively. And as soon as they can use their cars effectively, it's like it doesn't really matter. They're getting free access to the T. It'd be a nice little experiment.
And I think the Globe has an article on this, so it won't have the nuances that you and Allie think about, but I think the Globe wrote it up pretty clearly.
Okay, so what did they say about?
Well, I think I've downloaded it, but it was a few days ago. I'll try to look for it and send it around.
Okay. Well, okay. I was just foggy on the details about what kind of free access they're giving. Yeah.
Right.
It's a big deal. It's kind of cool to see, the way the agencies are coordinating on this. I think the agencies do a good job of working together. You know, and certainly they communicate with each other a lot. So
Yeah.
there's that. And so it's one other thing, but I'll save that for another time. Because the long range transportation plan isn't coming out until the middle of next month. And then we can have some time to talk about that. I'm just a little self conscious of the fact that I've been talking a lot, so I don't want to talk.
Okay. Well, I want to mention one quick thing, because you mentioned sort of in passing, the possibilities of people in East Boston driving to Blue Line stations, and that struck me as a surprising thing, because I didn't think that the Blue Line, except for Wonderland, really had any parking to speak of. And I just pulled up. Oh no, this is a really old. I'll have to get back to you on this. I did not think there was very much available parking for Blue Line, for any Blue Line station except at Wonderland, and that's an interesting aspect, or that's a factor in what the Blue Line utilization is going to be during the Sumner, the tunnel, whichever
Yeah.
one it is.
Yeah. Right. Well, look, I mean, I just said that, I don't really know to what extent people drive into the stations, meaning that I don't know to what extent these stations have parking, because I hardly use the Blue Line. I guess I would have said, yeah, there's parking at Wonderland, but I wouldn't know which stations have parking, which ones don't. So that was just I just kind of said it in thinking, well, if people don't drive and park, then maybe they're driven to stations and dropped off, but maybe, I guess, given what you just said, I guess for those other stations, people either walk or they take the bus, and probably a few get dropped off. Because I'm thinking, if it's like Davis Square or Porter Square stations, it's like no one gets dropped off at those stations. And I shouldn't say no one, but I hardly ever see anyone getting dropped off at those stations. So I'm sure at those stations, people walk or they take the bus.
Right. Well, I apologize for like going down this tangent, but just for a moment or two, this is the official MBTA current list of all stations and parking, and I'm just scanning it to see what's on the Blue Line, and I'm seeing Beachmont, and I'm seeing nothing else in this whole A through F station list that's on the Blue Line, just Beachmont. If I glance at the G through K, I don't see anything there on Blue Line either. I don't see anything for Blue Line here either. Orient Heights. Okay, we're up to 2 stations with parking. Suffolk Downs, 3rd one, and then finally Wonderland. So that's what, did I just count right? 3 Blue Line stations have parking, and that's it.
Yeah, in fact, what I did while you were talking
Notable.
was I went to the MBTA site and clicked on the Blue Line, and so it shows there's like a little parking icon. It has Wonderland, Beachfront, Suffolk Downs, Orient Heights.
Oh, how'd you get there?
So I went to the MBTA homepage,
Yeah.
and then there's like the let me back up.
So there is a Globe article from April 27th.
So homepage, subway lines.
I got it.
And then click on Blue Line.
Yep,
and then it gives
I'm
you
there.
the station departures, and then you just scroll down and it kind of shows you.
Yep.
So you were saying, Wig, April 22nd?
April 27th, there is an article in the Globe from State House News Headline is State Wants Sumner Tunnel Users to Ditch Cars for Trains. But it might have evolved since then. I mean, that was 4 weeks ago.
Yeah. So yeah, so like I said, it'd be good to see what we could do to maybe get permanent mode shifts, and
but the data will still be collected, right? So I mean, so the
What's
study, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, the data is collected anyway. So the study funding could be later looking at previous data, right? In other words, just because the project hasn't been planned or funded before the tunnel closure and these potential mode shifts doesn't mean that the analysis couldn't be done after the fact, right?
Right. And that's from the point of view of a study. It's like you can always design your study around the data that you have. And if you design your study before you do the experiment, then you can try and collect data that maybe you would have collected beforehand. So maybe doing surveys or things like that, and it's one thing you can do surveys before, during, and after. But if you only think about doing the surveys after it, then you can only get the surveys after. So things like that. I'm just tossing those out as hypothetical rationale for me planning a study early on. Not saying those kind of studies you want to do. Much like I just kind of toss out the drive to the station things for like, hey, how many people are getting there? It's like, well, we want to give them free access to the team. I'm just not sure. They said of that free access. But also, this is what main thing I want to see is like maybe the team can like take some initiatives instead to try to get them to do that mode shift. So like I said, my example earlier is like give them free access for a little longer. The tunnels are closed and see what that does. So, but once again though, we could have a chance of doing that next year. Because it has to be budgeted, right? There might be a chance that they would go, okay, well, we're anticipating it be a small enough financial hit that we could go ahead and do the study, do that instead of this coming summer. But let's assume that it's going to be a bit big enough financial hit that we'll have to budget for it. Then we could probably get into the budget for next year, because the state fiscal year starts July 1st, which I think will be before they're going to shut the train down next year. I think they shut it down in August. I'm sorry, not the train now. Shut down the tunnel. I think it's August. It could be as early as July, but I think it's August.
I believe you're right. Yeah. Fact. The double check here. Oh my.
Oh my what?
I'm actually seeing, I just went to the MassDOT project page and it says it's 2 months. It's from the beginning of July to the end of August.
Yeah, it's less time than that. So I am 100% sure that they told us at the MPO meeting, that was going to be, a month. I think they said, it was originally going to be longer, but we worked and we can get it down to a month. Now it might be 5 weeks. It certainly isn't 2 months. That's what I was told. So I can say I'm 100% sure of that. Whether or not that's what ultimately happens. Well, I wouldn't be 100% sure of anything. Respect to the future. And you can go and look at the last MPO meeting. Not only will you'll see the presentation at that meeting. It was towards the end of the meeting.
Yeah, keep in mind this is a big deal for Massport and Logan too.
Yeah. In fact, the woman from Massport, there was Charlie, just said folks should keep in mind that especially people using Silver Line, it's like you're you're going to be in a tunnel with a lot of other people. And so it's like, it's just going to take anyone by transit, using the red line, silver line, a lot longer to get to the airport than usual. And I think the clear message was like, take the blue line, green line, blue line, and they'll still probably slower because a lot more people are going to be doing that. It's just, it's going to be, it's going to be a hassle. But hey, I mean, I think the tunnel's like 90 years old or something, and you got to redo it. You got to. It's just part of, part of urban living. It's like you have to rebuild your infrastructure, and now and then, and big infrastructures affects a lot of people.
Those tunnels take some significant maintenance every decade.
Right.
One thing or another.
Well, I'm really glad to hear that they told the MPO it's going to be less time, because I can't find anything at the moment saying it's less than 2 full months. So,
well, I said, go to the MPO's YouTube channel and let's see if it's up. I'm not going to look at it because I just don't want to see myself.
Okay. I just found the town of Wellesley put out a notice 5 days ago saying that the Sumner Tunnel in Boston will be completely closed for 8 weeks.
Hey guys, it's Craig. I'm gonna drop, but I've been here listening quietly the whole time. So
Yep, we saw it. Thank you, Craig.
All right, take care, buddy.
Yep, bye.
Yep, thank you. Obviously, we don't have to hash out the details. We can review this more on by email and at the next subcommittee.
Yeah.
I wouldn't blame MassDOT for continuing to call it 8 weeks to be safe in a public, all the public communications.
So I'm looking at the MPO presentation now, and it's at minute 54:50. There's a map there. Oh. Maybe I'm wrong. Well, it's wrong. Yeah, I thought it was 4 weeks. I'm looking at the graphic here, and it's showing 8 weeks soon.
Yeah, I found some old presentations from MassDOT that talked about a 16-week full closure, but that, for 4 months, but that appears to be what was scaled back to just the 2 months.
Yeah. No. I guess I was wrong. So thanks. Glad I went and that you pursued enough. I mean, that I wanted to go and double check. So yeah, looking at the graphic here, I mean, it has July and August. And then weekend closures for a month after that, and then October, November, no closures. December, weekend closures. Yeah.
This is what I found that seems to be the most current.
Right. So it'd be July and August, meaning the same thing in 2024. July and August. Yeah. Yep. So if we were to try to fund the study, we'd have to have it, if we wanted to kind of have a budget for it. Well, if they budgeted me for providing more free service in September, then it would be so tight with respect to the operating budget. Still, though, they have to sign off on the operating budget by the end of June. So.
But there's still the opportunity for 2024 though, because it's projected to be the 8-week full closure, July and August, also in 2024, and presumably that is an achievable closure time period for a study that could be funded in that time period, right?
Well, this study would have to be funded pretty fast. And certainly if you wanted to provide funding for additional free service, they'd have to get it into the budget, now, so it could be, reviewed by the board of directors, and,
Understood. Yeah.
And actually, I think they have their draft budget out already because the advisory board's already looked at it, so it's probably too late for this budget cycle, unless they can do something on an emergency basis.
Yeah.
So okay. All right. Well, so it's 8 weeks, So thanks for
well, it's
getting me to correct that.
Unless they are being generous and they're just giving themselves the 8 weeks, and maybe they can get it done in less. But
No. I was just wrong. For some reason I was recalling that it's 4 weeks, and my recollection was wrong. So good. I'm glad we caught it during the meeting here, so that if anyone is watching the session live, or they watch the recording later on, hopefully they stayed tuned in long enough to get the correction and didn't go running off like 10 minutes ago, like The Rock said. It's only going to be closed for 4 weeks.
I can see it now. Angry tweets from people to the Rider Oversight Committee about one incorrect fact tonight.
So they get to August of this year and they're expecting like the tunnel to open. It's like, what do you mean?
The Rider Oversight Committee said it was going to be open for August, right? What's going on?
We all know that they're experts in tunnels that only cars use.
Actually, I want to take an opportunity very quickly, just to mention, I guess we could call this sort of under external meetings or new business. As soon as we're done on this Rider Oversight Committee meeting this evening, I'm going to be jumping over to this, which is just starting, the Blue Hill Avenue action plan, which is tonight, 6:30 to 8. I'm just wondering, what do we have any set, like do we as our organization want to put any kind of a focus on this? Or for example, tomorrow night is the Tremont, tomorrow night starting at 3:30. No, I'm sorry, tomorrow night starting at 3:30 p.m. is the Tremont Columbus Avenue bus lane meeting. Oh, it's in person, that's why. So I just wanted to ask, between Len and you, Wig, do we have any concerns about what's happened thus far with Blue Hill Avenue, the bus lanes, Route 28, the free pilot for 28, and those other nearby routes, which seems to be continuing with Boston funding, Tremont and Columbus Avenue bus lanes? Do we think that that's so far smooth sailing? Do we have any concerns? Should we put focus on that in the next couple of months, 6 months?
Well, I haven't been down there at all myself. I mean, we have had a nice presentation or two in advance of this, but I don't know how it's going.
Yeah, I would say if you have the bandwidth, Stefan, by all means, it could be through a critical lens, or it can be through, a critical lens looking for problems, or a critical lens pointing out how well it's working, and that we should continue them and try to do more. So if you have the bandwidth, it'd be great if you could, and then report back to us what you're learning about either how they're going and what they're planning on doing.
I'm planning on at least following and joining the meetings like this one that's coming up. Yeah, I mean, the express bus implementation, from what I've seen, was regarded as a unabashed success. That was Blue Hill Ave, right? Am I thinking of another
Well,
Mattapan route?
we had a really nice presentation of that in advance. I don't know if you guys remember it, but the logic, the logic was good. The photos were exceptional.
Right. Yeah. The center running with the inside station stops. A relatively small, if I remember correct, a relatively small amount of on-street parking that was lost on that. Was it Blue Hill Ave?
No, it was Blue Hill Ave. I thought it was Columbus. It was Columbus Ave.
Columbus. Thank you. Okay.
Oh,
my mistake.
My fault.
Yeah, no problem. Hey, so this Blue Hill. I mean, I wasn't aware of it. But
yeah, I believe the idea is the same type of implementation as the Columbus Avenue. Yes. So I just pulled up the project page, but I won't share it. Yeah, Columbus Avenue bus lanes, Route 22, 29, 44, and I believe it's 28 that goes down Blue Hill Ave, right?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
No problem.
I think you're right, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, I'll have more to report.
But if it's the center lane thing, I remember he wanted to do something along those lines. Back in 2008, 2009, right, when we had that financial crisis, and this was a project that they thought was shovel ready, and that was actually the beginning of the end of the participants, the advocates participation in the ROC, because there's a little split within that group. There were some that wanted this to happen and some that didn't, and it ended up not happening, and so now it's interesting. It seems like it's another push for it. If indeed it is 28, Route 28. If it's not, then it's not another push for that center line. But hopefully, part of the outcry, I think, was that it was going to happen really fast with very little public outreach. And hopefully, if it is the same area, then it'll have sufficient public outreach, meaning that they'll feel that if they have the public outreach, they still feel it's a good idea to move forward with it. They'll have the courage to do so, because you're never going to get 100% buy-in on these. And you're lucky if you get 2 to 1. But 2 to 1 with a lot of people, it's still going to give you a lot of people unhappy. And as you know, people unhappy tend to be a lot louder, a lot more intense than those who are with any given initiative. And it's then incumbent upon the leaders to stick to it and get it done. Because a lot of times, the sky doesn't fall, and before you know it, people are like, how did it look before this was here? It's it's as if it was always there.
Yep. And I just double check. Yes, we are speaking correctly. It's the Route 28, which is on Blue Hill Ave for a significant part of the route, from basically just north of Franklin Park all the way down to Mattapan Station, connecting with the high-speed line.
Yeah. So I think back in 2009, they were going to call it the 28X or something.
Yep. Exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah. So cool. I will definitely report more to you next time, but I believe that's the whole idea of this meeting tonight is express bus lane, similar to Columbus, but on Blue Hill Ave.
15 years later, that's like a blink of an eye.
Yep. We get enough blinks of those eyes, maybe we'll see a blue line to Lynn.
Yeah.
I would just go riffing on a theme there, Blue Hill Ave.
No. Well, I didn't know if it was it. I was just thinking, well, hopefully Stefan first ride, on the Blue Hill will not be in a coffin. Yeah.
I made a joke at a meet I shouldn't say a meeting, but a talk given at the Lynn Museum several years ago before the pandemic. Sort of a retrospective by Tom Costin, former mayor of Lynn and close confidant of the Kennedy family. Tom Costin, as a mayor of Lynn, a very pro transportation guy, pushed very, very hard for the Blue Line extension to Lynn when he was in office. And I was only partly joking. I was mostly serious when I spoke up at the end of that meeting, that event at the museum. I said, Mr. Costin, may we name the Lynn Blue Line station the Tom Costin Memorial Blue Line station? And everybody laughed, but thought that was a great idea. And he's still alive and kicking at 96.
All right.
So, the project's not dead yet, and neither is Tom Costin. I saw you nodding, Wig. You know the Costin family has a huge legacy in Lynn.
Yeah, and he's also been breathing a lot of salt air, so maybe that's the secret to his health.
Wouldn't be surprised, yeah.
He's quite a character.
Well,
any last bits of old and new business, and I've got none coming to mind. I'm going to put the message out to Andrew Cassidy and Danny Levy tomorrow during the day. And
if you can CC me, that'd be great. Thank you.
Well, sure thing.
Okay, great. That way I can respond because sometimes what happens is they respond, but you don't see the response.
Exactly.
All right.
Oh yeah.
Okay, yep. Cool. All righty. Well, we'll let you go. And
yeah, I mean, unless there's anything else that we want to mention about other external meetings like coming out of RTAC.
No, that's it. I've talked a lot.
Okay. Wig, how about you?
I'm good.
Okay. So I'm the co-chair running. Well, who wants to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
And can I second it? I'll second it. Sure.
All right.
It's just the three of us.
Okay. So long. Take care.
Thank you all. And for the record, I don't see anybody watching, and we're actually beyond the public comment period as advertised on the agenda. So I think we are safe. We're not going to leave anybody without the opportunity to speak. So thank you both very much. Enjoy the Memorial Day long weekend.
All right. So bye, Jonathan.
Yes.